If you read the book of Dr. Ali Sharita of Hajj, everybody should get a chance to read this. It makes you love this religion of Islam. It makes you love this gift of being able to go one day for this Hajj. He explains about the niyyah. He says, before entering the miqat is the place where you make the niyat, where you put on the ihram, you begin your salat, and you say to Allah, I am ready, I'm here. Which is the beginning of a great change for all of us when we get that chance. You must declare your intention. What does this encompass? It is the intention of a transfer from slavery to freedom. From racial discrimination to equality, sincerity, and truth. And you may say, I don't understand. What do you mean from slavery to freedom? What do you mean from racial discrimination to equality? When you go to Hajj, you're going to see every color of this earth there. You read the book of Malcolm X by Alex Haley. His life changed when he went for Hajj. He originally was a part of the Nation of Islam, but when he went there, he says, no, there's no racism in Islam. We're all brothers. He had people giving him food and taking care of him. And he says, when I was in America, they disrespected the African Americans. When I'm here, they treat me like their brother. I have a brother and sister of a blue-eyed brother, a white brother, a blonde-haired brother, a Chinese brother, an Indonesian, Turkish. My God. And his whole view of Islam changed in that experience. So it is a transfer from the state of ihram, being extremely conscious. You must have faith in your heart, even if the realm of your job. See, in our job, sometimes we're slaves to the job, and the boss is the master. Working is either a habit or by force. Here, you have to shed this pattern of your life and become genuinely conscious of Almighty Allah. You have to leave your job behind. You have to leave your family behind. You have to leave your material behind. You don't even wear the fancy clothes anymore. You're wearing a white cloth, like when you're going to be in the grave. And this is the beginning of your niyyah. This is really, Allah, I'm here for you. I'm coming back to you. Hajj is, talking a little bit about the Hajj, it's a well-known Islamic worship. And it was practiced by Prophet Ibrahim. Now, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and his son Ismail rebuilt the Kaaba. They say in Hadith that the Kaaba was there even during the time of Prophet Adam. They say it used to be white. They say it actually got destroyed during the floods of Nuh. And even the Ark of Nuh went around the Kaaba, which is a lot of interesting history if it's, I don't know the exact authenticity of a lot of this Hadith, but it's fascinating. You look at the significance of this house. They used to be called Mecca, now we know it's Mecca. The significance of this direction, of this worship, of all toward Allah. We don't worship the Kaaba. It's just that we're in unison, worshiping Allah together in one direction. And it continued amongst the people even after Ibrahim. And you know that before Prophet Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, established Islam in Mecca, they used to even put idols in there, unfortunately. But if you know the history, when the Muslims went from Medina and took over Mecca, they broke all the idols. The history was Imam Ali went on the shoulders of the Prophet and he went inside the Kaaba and broke every single idol, just like Ibrahim did. Now when we go for Hajj, we should be doing the same act. Are we breaking our idols of our lives? The things that we worship? Are we breaking ourselves of the things that we worship? And then after the Umrah, if you know the whole process, after the Umrah, which you do, which is Umrah Tamattu, then you go for the continuation of this Hajj Tamattu, which Tamattu means like pleasure. It's a blessing that you get. This comes from the word muta, where you get such a beautiful benefit, especially even when you stop the ihram, you were able to do a lot of things you're not able to do before. So Allah is giving you a beautiful life of freedom. And do we appreciate that? So you go to the Arafah, and then that's where this whole process starts. And then the part of Hajj is you go from Arafah to where you're staying the day, then you go to Muzdalifah, where you pick up some stones, and then you end up going to Mina where you throw the rocks on the shaitan. Now what are these shaitans? Shaitan bothered Prophet Ibrahim 3 times. They said the first 2 times to Prophet Ibrahim, the third time to Prophet Ismail. And he tried to prevent Ibrahim from making the sacrifice of his son, which Allah told him to do. Twice Shaitan tried to bother him. And twice, they say it was stopped. And the third time he went to Ismail, Prophet Ismail said, "Get away from me." Even when Ibrahim asked him, "What do you say?" He said, "Satajidu inshallah ma'asabri, I'll be one of the paid. If for Allah I will be patient. Do what you have to do, Ya Ibrahim, O my father." So this whole experience of Hajj is about them, what they went through, the process that happened. So, and then in the end you go back to the Kaaba and you go Safa Marwa and it ends. Now, what is this all about? I just gave you the basis of the concept of the Hajj, but we need to start thinking. When we're going for the Hajj, I know some of you have gone for Umrah. When you start doing the circumambulating around the Kaaba, the Tawaf, what is it about? This going around 7 times, what is it about? It's like a roaring circle of a river around the stone. When the water is streaming and it's going past the stone. It is like the sun in the center of the solar system. And you're seeing the planets rotating. And it's amazing when you look at this picture. I remember one brother I met, he became Muslim in his 50s. He said when he was 20, he saw a video of the process of Hajj and how people were going around, and it just blew his mind, and he had to get out of the room right away. Eventually, he found Islam and became Muslim in his 50s. Amazing story. But this is the same direction where the planets go around the sun, where the whole solar system is moving, and the whole universe is moving. For what's the center of all our lives? It's Allah. This is what life is about, where we are just creatures living in this part of this river, moving with it. The moving of the idea is all within monotheistic idea. Allah is the center of our lives. And what's funny, when you do the tawaf, you're supposed to keep your left side facing toward the Kaaba and you keep going around. If you move and go turn, if you mess up the direction, you've messed up the ritual, the rites, the regulations, and you have to start all over again. You are going to be pushed by people. It happens naturally. It's, millions of people. Life is like that. You'll be bothered, pushed, but you have to stay focused. If not, you broke your tawaf. You have to start all over again. Life is like you're being bothered, you're being pushed. It's tough, but you need to be focused with Allah in your heart. So this whole orientation is around Allah. Allah is the center of our existence. He is the focus of this brief world. In contrast, we are a moving particle, changing our position from what we are to what we ought to be. This is what this tawaf is about. This movement is as of one unit. See, you're not by yourself anymore. See, when you say, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, you're telling Allah, thee do we worship, and thee do we seek help. You cannot say, I'm going for Hajj, it's all about me, myself, and I, and yeah, a lot happens to you. But then you realize what innamal mu'minuna ikhwa means, that we're all brothers and sisters in Islam. We're all brothers and sisters in creation. You feel it there, like Malcolm X felt it there. That there is no individual identification. This is as if you're being, you're a man or a woman. Men and women pray together there. We're all one. There's no segregation. There's no discrimination. Everybody is one. It doesn't matter if you're the prince, the king, the poorest man on the earth. You're standing beside your brother. You could be the president of a country standing with the same clothes as your brother and sister in creation. Now, the women have a different clothing, of course, than the men, but again, it's similar in terms of, it's very simple. And this whole movement, it's a transformation from one person into the totality of the human race. As you break the I in us, the I's, we talked about the iPod, the iGod, me, myself, and I. You have to break that and join the we. Establishing the humanity, the aim of approaching to Allah. Now, if you ever read Imam Zain al-Abidin's dua book, Sayyif al-Sajjadiyah, what is it about? It's about the plight of humanity and the sufferings they go through and the prayers for them. You pray for your neighbors, for your children, for your parents. You pray for when you're sick, and you thank God for all the blessings there. You pray for those in the frontiers, the captives. You pray for those who are in need. You're praying, and it's the plight of humanity. If you remember last week's discussion about righteousness, those who care for the people of the world, now you're approaching righteousness. So we've discussed this when you're genuinely involved about the problems of the people of the world. If you care for the orphans of Korea, and I saw this program, this poor orphan suffered so much that he was in an orphanage and they beat him. And he had to run away and became homeless. And eventually he became famous. But what he suffered, my God, I can't even stand what he went through. And the struggles that people go through in this life. We need to care for humanity. So we need to get away from ourselves and stop becoming couch potatoes. And now forget couch potatoes. Now we're in front of a chair, in front of your internet. You're these potatoes in front of an internet. So we have to stop being selfish like that, and we need to think of humanity. We need to hit the field. We need to hit the ground where we care for others. So some of you I know went for a demonstration about the massacre of poor human beings on this earth. What's going on in Pakistan where they're just killing people. It's sad. And this is not the majority of the people. This a few extremists are just hurting people. So by becoming actively involved, this includes practicing generosity, devotion, self-denial, suffering in captivity and exile, enduring the torture and pains, and facing various types of danger. I sent some of you guys a video of this guy named Dominic who helped this guy, a Muslim guy on the streets who couldn't change his tire. And he says, I'll come and help you. He says, Allahu Akbar, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah. And he was not even Muslim, according to the show. And he says, why are you helping me? He says, for the love. Come on. He says, I'll give you some money. He says, no, I don't want your money. I'm doing this for humanity. That's righteousness. That's an example of what we need to be like in terms of helping people. We don't want anything in return. We do it for Hubballah, the love of God, like Ahlul-bayt in Surah Dahr explained to us. Now this is how you are with the people and where you may approach Allah. During Tawaf, you must be drawn into this roaring river of people who are circumambulating around the Kaaba. This is how you will become a Haji. The Kaaba is steadfast in the center, while the white roaring river are the people. And we need to say, am I going to stand on the banks of the river and watch? Or I'm going to join and be one with the river. So it's a fascinating experience. Outside the Kaaba, each person has his own ways, their rights. Humanity is only an idea. It's a logical idea. It's a theoretical concept. Therefore, its people represent mankind who are making the tawaf. But we're watching, before you enter this tawaf, you're watching, you say, it's just a concept, or am I going to really be one with humanity? And I'm going to be one with my brothers and sisters in creation. If you remain in the state of self-centeredness, you will be like a visitor standing in the bank of a river. But if you do not take part in it, then you will never achieve the success of the Hajj. You'll be stagnant. You'll be dead. There we're like wandering particles in the air, just floating around. So, furthermore, at the Kaaba, you are taught to prove yourself to become eternal. You must reject the self-centeredness, the ego-ness. You have to say, no, I'm going to be one with the humanity. By exercising generosity, kindness to others, and devotion to the community, the Ummah, you will attain self-discovery and envision the reality. You will become shaheed. The word shaheed, we know, means to witness, to bear witness. The word shaheed also means those who die in the way of God, in the battles, like the battle of Karbala and the martyrdom, what happened to the 72 companions. But Allah says in chapter 3, verse 69, think not that those who are slain in the way of God is dead. No, they are alive. So now when you're entering this process, you have to get rid of yourself and leave yourself and go and be one with humanity. It's like you're dying and being, you're actually achieving one with God. So a human is a representative of Allah. A person who will live eternally if he dies as a human being. It's like a drop of water which is not part of a river or nor is it a part of the sea, is like dew. So what is a drop of water? If you're not part of the river, if you're not part of the sea, it's like, the dew you see in the mornings at Fajr time, this wetness. That's what we are. What will happen to us? Once this, it will only last during the dark hours, the evening, in the early morning. Once the sun comes out, we're gone. We're disappeared. So Dr. Shariati is explaining, oh humanity, join the river. Join the flow. Meet the sea to become eternal. He says, oh dew, why are you waiting near the bank of the river which reminds you of the harmony of creation? Go ahead and join the people. But before you become together, you must be fully conscious of what you're doing. You can't just jump in. You need to be aware. You're saying to Allah, Labbaik, I'm here. And then you need to go for Allah. And why are you doing this? What are you doing? You need to understand this process. It's not just the rituals. A lot of us may go to Hajj, and we're worried about the rules. Every little rule you're worried about. Some people say, I cannot tie my ihram, I should put a pin, all these little rules. You get so caught up, which is important. You need to know the process, the procedure, the whole experience. But don't just focus on the rules. I was with one brother, and when I went, I was living in New York, and he was from Canada. And this Canadian guy was a young guy, and he's, I think, 18, 19, 20, young, or maybe 22. When he went, he was so humble. He was doing the tawaf, and he says, I would love to touch the Hajr al-Aswad, which is the black rock in the corner of the Kaaba. But I don't want to push anybody. I don't want to push. I want to be one with the people. And what's nice is a lot of schools of thought, other than the followers of Ahlul-bayt, they say, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Whenever you pass the Hajj al-Aswad, every one time you count once, twice. You say, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. The followers of Ahlul-bayt, you don't turn. You keep your left shoulder straight. You keep going. But the other schools of thought, they have a process where they turn, they face Hajj al-Aswad, they say, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. So he's walking, and he had finished his tawaf. He had finished his umrah. He's just walking around the Kaaba, just contemplating. And he stops, and he sees everybody stopped and turned and faced the Kaaba and said, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. He says, Allah, you just gave me the chance. He ran right there because the whole crowd stopped, and they stopped moving, and the people in front of him kept going. He ran down and touched the Kaaba and Hajj al-Aswad. And he said, Allah, you gave me the chance to bear witness of La ilaha illallah by touching this. And I thank you for the chance of not even having to push anybody, and I got to do it. It's a beautiful experience. Anyway, so you must admit that it is for Allah, not for yourself. Not just for a vacation. It's not for politics that you're doing this. It's not for just to show up. I'm a Haji now. In some communities, this guy's a Haji. He's a famous, it's an important person in the community, of the town, of the country. Forget the titles. You're doing this for Allah. You're going back to Allah and waking up to where you really are. Every act is an important meaning. Everything. The eternal movement is governed by accuracy and discipline. It reflects the organization of the world, the way the earth is moving. Now, after you finish the 7 tawaf, you do 2 rakat salat, and you're supposed to do it where Prophet Ibrahim stood. And what's funny, his footprints are still there. Where he stood, it's called Maqam Ibrahim. And you pray 2 rakats, and you face the Kaaba, and it's funny, and around the whole masjid, you face the Kaaba, it's the right direction to pray. Today we're worried which direction is northeast from here. We're worried about the direction of prayer from Toronto. But at that point, it's amazing fleeting. You've just finished the 7th round. 7 layers of heaven, maybe. The concept. The state of tawaf ends after you finish these 2 rakats. It was on this stone where Ibrahim stood and rebuilt the Kaaba with his son, Ismail. He laid the cornerstone of the Kaaba, Hajr al-Aswad. It constructed the Kaaba. Being in Ibrahim's position, it's the significance of standing in his place. It is difficult to realize what Tawheed does to mankind, but you're there representing Allah. You're saying, I'm in the position where Abraham was. Do I understand how much he loved God? That he broke the idols and they were going to kill him and they were going to throw him in the fire? And Allah saved him, And he still wouldn't mind doing it again because he knew he was living for Allah in this life. We're being thrown in the fire all the time. So we say, forget it, I'll give up my Allah and go after the idols, his uncle's idols, right? Anyway, so this position that you're in, this beautiful experience, you're alongside Allah, you feel the Tawheed as a result of your being hit and denied and enslaved during your tawaf. Allah wants you to prostrate to Him. He will then call you, O sincere one. You were just at the bank of the river, standing, thinking of yourself, looking at this enormous crowd, this enormous river, watching the people and not being one with them. You were just a useless particle, reprimanded by Allah, and you were mud and clay and earth, but now you are flowing and moving. Now you're actually taking the religion of Islam, putting it into practice and moving with it. No longer you are stagnant. Now you are roaring, washing away the rocks, breaking the dams and finding your way in the gardens that grow in your heart. If you do not move, you will destroy all these potentials. Allah says in Surah Shams, verse 10, and indeed is the one who's a failure who has stunted it, who has corrupted it. We are a failure when we become stagnant. We need to be progressive as human beings. While the river flows, it gives life to the dead. Just like Prophet Isa, with the help of Allah, gave life to the dead. But if you stay stagnant, like dampness in a corner, you will be enjoying yourself or even suffering, but you'll become petrified like a stone. You'll become useless. So Allah says, move. Don't be a stagnant Muslim. Be a positive Muslim. And that was the spiritual aspect of this Umrah, the Hajj. Right next to, once you're done with this part, you go to a place called Say, which is an area called Massa, which is the two mountains of Safa and Marwa, where we talk Prophet Adam landed on Safa and Bibi Hawa landed on Marwa. This part is when Prophet Ibrahim was told by Allah to leave Hajra and his son Ismail there in Mecca. There was no water there. There was no food. There was nothing. It's a barren land, desert. So it's a tremendous significance of what Hajra went through, the wife of the Prophet Ibrahim, what she suffered, what was she after. It's about the material because there was no water, no food. She went searching back and forth 7 times between the two mountains, Safa and Marwa. It's about a quarter of a mile from one mountain to the other. And you have to do the same, go back and forth, following the same footsteps of Hajra. It's purely material. It's about the material part of life. It's about how we are going to feed our children one day. How Hajra was so worried to feed her child. It's a human need that she was going through. Allah told Hajra to obey Him, and He would provide for her. Allah would take care of their lives, their needs, their future. And Hajra, the example of submission and obedience to Allah, the great champion of faith and the reliance in love, you will be protected under Allah's umbrella. Hajra totally submitted to Allah. Some people say, well, she was moving. Don't you know what Allah wants from you? Yeah, Allah says, I will take care of you. But you don't sit there and say, oh, food, come to me. You have to go and work. And Hajra with her feet worked and looked and searched for food. You can't expect things to come to you. But that's the blessing of Allah, because when you start struggling in Allah's way, and she was worshiping God in that struggle, and we're copying her, Allah sent the miracle where the water of Zamzam began to come from the foot of Ismail, who was a baby, who tapped his foot and water started to come in the middle of the desert. And people from all over saw this, and birds started to come, and the city of Mecca was rebuilt at that point. And the tribes had come, and it's an amazing significance. But she was hopeful. She was struggling, but she was hopeful. And this miracle of God, the help of God was always there. It was a trial for her, and a trial for Ibrahim to leave his family there. But at the same time, Allah would never abandon us. He listened to the prayer of Ibrahim, He took care, and He's left it as such an important part of our lives. And this represents the material aspect of life. Just before was the spiritual. So you cannot be one or the other. You cannot say, I'm just going to work and forget about the spiritual. You can't say, I'm going to go pray in the corner and just worry about the spirit and the spiritual or the material. You have to have the balance. You can't be an extremist. The tawaf is the will of Allah. The say, walking back and forth like Safa Marwa, is your will. Tawaf is as if you're a butterfly that encircles a candle. You never see a butterfly that goes around a candle. Eventually what happens? It gets burned into the light. And the ashes goes into the wind. Disappearing in the love and dying in the light. When you're in tawaf, you're just doing the same. You're like a butterfly disappearing in the light. Just dying in the light. Your whole soul is with oneness of God. There's so much tafsir and knowledge about how holy this place is. When you look up, you just see birds. Beautiful bird. It's so clean. It's so spiritual. There's something there. You will cry when you see the Kaaba. You will feel the purity of being there. It's something no one can imagine. You have to see it and be there to believe it. The say, going back and forth, is like an eagle who flies above the black mountains and is looking for food with his strong wings to find food, to seize the bait in the midst of the stones. It conquers both the earth and the sky. The wind blows in the earth and the sky. The wind blows so softly against the eagle's wings. You know, it's amazing how nicely Dr. Al-Shariti talks. It's so poetic. He says, flying freely above the sky, heaven signifies its ambition. Under the wings, the earth is so despised. The earth is so conquered by the eagle's sharp and prudent look. The eagle is looking for food. And it's the significance of you need to balance your life. You need to have a holistic view of life. Islam is a religion of moderation. It's a religion of understanding what your needs are, and also your wants, but how you have to balance that and remembering Allah who's given you everything. And what is more important is, what's more important, the spirit or the material? Both. Everything's important. Allah's showing you that balance is important. You can't be either. You have to be both. Now Arafah. Now Arafah, upon wearing the ihram, you put on the garments and you leave Mecca. And this is on the 9th of El-Hajj. You go to Arafah. And if you know, Eid is on 10th. So the Hajj actual process is not very long. You know, you can do it in a few days. It's not that long. The problem is getting there and then staying there. Then you want to go to Medina and see where the Prophet was and where he's buried. And there's a lot of other things to do. So you will start traveling toward the east of Arafah. Now if you know the word Arafah, what does it mean? It comes from Marafah. To know. Exactly. Knowledge. Excellent. So the stop at Arafah occurs in the daytime, beginning in the noon, Salat al-Dhuhr. And it's on the 9th of Dhul-Hajj, and it's when the sun is most above it. It is so hot at that point, and it's so bright. And this time is designed so that you may gain consciousness, that you gain the marifah of Allah, the knowledge of Allah. You gain insight, freedom. You begin to love this sunlight. At sunset, the stop at Arafah is over. Nothing can be seen in the dark. While one was in Arafah, you stood so close to Almighty Allah. Did we have the chance to know Him when you were in Arafah? You know, there's du'as like Dua Arafah by Imam Hussein, Dua Arafah by Imam Zalam. If you read the meaning, wow. When I was there, the sheikh who was there read it in Arabic and English, in the translation, because I don't know Arabic, it was so beautiful. You're thanking Allah for every organ in your body. From your throat to your esophagus to your liver. I mean, you're appreciative of everything He's given you. And this is Imam Hussein talking to Allah, thanking Him from all that He's been given. The tragedy is when you have discovered yourself in Arafah. That's a tragedy. Why? Because you realize how lost we were when you're at Arafah. You said, my God, I lived my whole life up to this point. Where was I? Where was Allah? Where didn't I see Him? Why didn't I appreciate Him? We were not eager to learn even a little bit of knowledge about him. And now in Arafah, a small afternoon, now you're contemplating about how great he is and how thankful you are of getting the chance to be alive. So then, if you look at this significance, when you go from Mecca to Arafah, it's like, Inna lillahi. Lo, we are from Allah. And when you go from Arafah back to Kaaba, well, Inna ilayhi rajiun, and you're going to return to Him. You're from Allah and you're going to go back to Him. And Arafah represents the beginning of man's creation. If you know the significance of what happened at Arafah, this Jabal al-Rahmah is there. This is where Adam and Eve, our parents, re-met when they were put on this earth. And they prayed for forgiveness, and they asked for Allah's guidance, and they were guided on this earth. They were made the prophet of this earth. Such a beautiful experience. You're at the same place that Adam and Eve were. It's incredibly amazing. And it's such a beautiful experience. Then, darkness is everywhere. This is the evening after the night of the El-Hajj. Now you have anything to fear? The road is solid and secure. Sacrificing yourself on the right way is salvation. Remember, now you're entering Mashar. Mashar means consciousness. And this area of Muzdalifah, Mashar, what do you do there? You spend the night there. You begin to pick up your weapons, which are little pebbles. They say you pick up, say, 70, because you're going to use them the next 3 days. Some people stay 4, but for the next few days. And you use it as your weapons of your iman, your bullets of your iman, to hit the idols of the world, the dangers of the world. And it's a beautiful experience. So darkness is everywhere. You're picking up these stones. You're going now to Mina, which also means something like love. Mina is the land of love, struggle, martyrdom. It is the land where people make their promises to God. As a united community, they promise to participate in good deeds and fight the evil ways of life. They promise to respond to the calls of the Prophet, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, the Prophet who had the holy book in one hand and his intellect and wisdom on the other, to make the right decision when confronted with stubborn enemies and dealing with with friends and humanity. It's an amazing experience. So the next part is you stay till Fajr at Mashar, Muzdalifah, and then you get in after Salat al-Fajr, you go into Mina. Now what you have to do on that day, at the 10th of Dhul-Hajj, which is the day of Eid, is you take 7 pebbles and you go to the big Akbar, the big idol where Shaitan went to Baal Ibrahim, and you throw it. They say you're supposed to flick it, the stones, at this idol, this rock, this large rock, where it signifies the first Shaitan that tried to bother Prophet Ibrahim. Once you do that part, then you go and do the sacrifice of say a goat or sheep, where you send the food to the poor. And then you can do the halakah, where you cut the hair. And this is where the ihram can come out. So it's a tremendous experience. To take over the enemy's base, now you're going to the enemy's base. And I'm telling you, it's an amazing experience when you get to do it. It is so tough when you're in Mina, because there's few million people going into this small city. And they're all taking their rocks to hit the shaitan because they want to get the ihram out. They don't realize the battle of life. That's what the battle of life is. Because you're trying to fight the evils of life, but people will hurt you. Shaitan will begin to use people around you to hurt you. You'll see rocks coming at you. Some people throw their shoes even. It's like extreme, people pushing. I almost lost my ihram. It was kind of a dangerous experience. But it's such a beautiful experience. Because the battle of life is there, but you're doing it for the love of God, to fight the evil. It's such a beautiful pleasure of God. It's tough. Life is tough, but it's the significance of life there. What's funny is you had divided your arms at Mashar. So if you look at the whole thing, you had built your weapons of 70 shots when you were in this Mashar in Muzdalifah. What is this Hajj? The significance now is when you're doing Tawaf, you're declaring monotheism. When you're doing the struggle of Safa Marwa, the Hajj went through, you're looking at the material struggle of life. When you were in Arafat, you're representing a descent. When the Prophet Adam and Eve descended on this earth and they went there. And they asked to know God and to know what they've done, and they're worshiping God, asking for forgiveness and acknowledging God. Now you're at the point that you're showing the philosophy of man's creation, where you are now. The evolution of your thoughts from pure science to pure love. And the ascension of the spirit from mud to God by going from Arafat to Mina. This last stage, this evolution in this idealism, absolute freedom with absolute submission. This stage of Ibrahim you're in Mina now. Now you're about to act like Prophet Ibrahim. He brought his son there to sacrifice his son there. Are we going to sacrifice our Ismail? What is your Ismail? What is the thing that's most dear to you? Because he was so old and he finally was given a child. And now Allah is telling him now, okay, you love me so much, go sacrifice. He had a dream, they say, for 3 nights, and he, said, I have to do this. And he went to do this. Can we do that? What is your most important thing in your life? What is your Ismail? Your children? Some of you are not married. Is it your career, your job, your education, your money, your house, your time, your car, your love? And there is only one thing for which you can give up everything, and that is for the love of God. That's what Prophet Ibrahim did, and that's what we need to do. At this point, we need to break these idols within ourselves and say, look, now I'm going back to God. Now we're at this end of this performance. All those who defeated the shaitan, as Ibrahim did, sacrifice their selfishness and celebrate the victory that day. And it's an Eid that day. Before returning to Mecca for a farewell, the Wida, you still have a few more days. You don't leave Mina. You still have to stay there. And the next day, you need to hit the 3 idols, the 3 places where shaitan was. And the following day, again. Some people even stay an extra day to do it. But you can actually get, just like minimum is at least the next 2 days. You have to fulfill this obligation. These 2 extra days are summarized in Hajj. This is the convention of Hajj. This is the battle of Hajj. You may have laid down the armor, your ihram, because after you do the cutting of the hair and after sacrifice and cutting the hair, you don't have to wear the ihram anymore. So you put your armor down, but you do not put away your weapons, the pebbles. It's not over yet. The battle is still on in life. Is it not true that man has an experience in these 3 days? It's representing how life is, where you're liberating yourself from this similar slavery. There's these 3 stages where you hit the shaitans. You're battling the selfishness. You're battling the animalistic self, and you're ascending to Prophet Ibrahim's position. You're doing everything for the sake of Allah, as Ibrahim did. You are not like the 3 idols. It's the antithesis of the 3 idols when you're at this major Hajj, the Hajj Tamattu. When we shot the idols, when we're throwing the rocks, there's 3 shaitans, what were we thinking? Are we going to do the same thing where we'll avoid evil? Will we then avoid wrongdoings when we go back? We are followers of Ibrahim, the soldiers of Tawheed. Are we going to destroy the idols of our lives, the ego, the selfish, the greeds of our lives? Last week we talked about sending money to those children in Africa who just want eggs. After the program, a few brothers and sisters raised some money and they sent $100. Let me tell you, every penny counts. I told you those children needed 13 cents for 1 egg, and you guys did it. And it's amazing. The guy was supposed to leave Tuesday, but he's leaving next Tuesday. And alhamdulillah, I was able to get the money from him. So thank you for all you've done. But you've showed us righteousness, that you care for others and humanity. This ayah, chapter 7, verse 175. Very beautiful ayah. Allah says, and recite to them the news of him whom we gave our signs. But he detached himself from them, so Satan pursued him, and he became of the deviators. Look at this ayat. Recite to them the person that Allah has given the knowledge of the signs, but they got deviated and they became lost, and shaitan got them. This specific ayat, Imam Bakr alayhi salam has said, talks of a person named Balaam. Balaam was a man during the time of Pharaoh who had the knowledge of Ismi Azams, the great names of God, who had this power. But he fell victim to the greed of life. And Pharaoh told him, use this knowledge, this magic, this power against Musa so we can capture him. And he says, okay, and when he went to do it, he forgot the Ismi Azam. He forgot it. The name of special names of God, this beautiful names that would give him power. He forgot it. And he ended up dying as an evil person, a lost person. So Imam Bakr says, okay, yeah, it does talk about him in this ayat, but it also talks about us. Allah intends to set an example for those who receive true guidance from Him. If we get a little chance of a nourishment, of a sip of this ocean of knowledge, Allah's telling you, now that I've given you this, do you prefer that, or do you prefer to act to your own desires and you lay your hands on the worldly gains only? Are you becoming an extremist, where you only think material is enough or spiritual, or are you balancing your life? Any person with an Ibrahimian mind, depending upon his personal views, his suggested methods for social change, his responsibilities, and the socio-political system of the community he lives in, and may consider the shaitans as something important. Like the first shaitan he's throwing rocks at, he thinks of it as oppression. He says, I'm going to fight oppression and injustice of this earth. It's like, think of it as Pharaoh. I'm throwing these rocks at the Pharaoh of this world. The next one, think of it as Qarun. Qarun was all about money and power and wealth during the time of Pharaoh. So when you're fighting the economic greed, throwing the stones on the next part, he said, this money that I've been given, I'm not going to be greedy like Qarun was. I'm going to be better than that. I'm going to be like Khadija, Lady Khadija, who gave away her wealth. I'm going to be like Pharaoh's wife, Asya, who didn't care about the money, but cared about God. And then the next shaitan, when you throw it, it's like Balaam. Any condition that may cause people to adhere to polytheism under the cover of monotheism, being tricked by the magic of this world, I'm going to throw the rocks at that point. See, Mina and the three shaitans makes us think. It's such an important part. After that, then you go finish your Hajj, and when you do the tawaf and the say, and they say even it's funny when there's one in the end where you do tawaf of Nisa. They say it's like about your marriage will break if you don't do this tawaf. That's how important it is. Okay, so this whole process, the world conspires to alter the ties whereby our enemy pretends to be your brother. Now this Mina process. Your enemies act, yeah, I'm one with you. I'm your brother, man. What's up? But they're trying to weaken our faith. They're trying to grab us and take us to places we shouldn't do and go. They promote disunity within the community. This complex shatters the victorious revolutions and knocks down the freedom fighters at the peak of the devotion and the sacrifice and realizes the shedding of blood between friends. Consequently, the righteous believer becomes a puppet in the evil ones. The bad perform so intelligently that people are not aware of their plans. However, it is not difficult to beat the evil ones. It's not. Allah showed you when the rise of the sun at Fajr and Muzdalifah, you took the rocks and the weapons and you went and threw the rocks at the first shaitan, the evil of the life. You had to see the light to be able to do that. Allah is showing you, look, when you have the light of guidance from me, the evil ones better watch out. The evil problems of this world, the ones who hurt the orphans, the ones who are greedy, selfish, if we're like that, the light of guidance will help us see the truth and illuminate this valley of Mina. And the agents who hid in the darkness, who played these games behind the rocks, will be exposed. And you're going to say, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm going to fight this evil of this world. And I'm going to do right and live righteous and follow the way the Prophet lived. You resisted evil and the world's gimmicks by your righteousness. What's next now? Now the Hajj is finished. You finished the whole process. This few days process, it's over. Are we returning from a discussion of Hajj today? Or if you get the chance to go to Hajj, are we going to return the same way we came? Never. We're not going to do that. Never. You played the role of Ibrahim right now, today, and when you go for Hajj, you played the role of Ibrahim and Hajra and Ismail. This was symbolic show. It was a symbolic show for us. But a good actor who is really into the character, it changes their personality. It makes an impression on them. And by the character of the individual who is playing this role, by breaking the idols of Ibrahim, who fought against ignorance, oppression, and passiveness, he rebelled against suffering. And so must we. So talking about Hajj, and if you look at these ayats of Quran, it talks about the faroo-e-deen, the practices of Islam, where you take the belief and put it into practice. It's a tremendous gift from God. But we cannot talk about it and just have hot air coming out of our mouths. Just talk. It's cheap, as we said. We need to live it. And this Hajj experience is Allah showing you while we're alive of living this religion to its fullest, of practicing it and helping humanity in an altruistic concept of caring for everybody and loving for the sake of Allah. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala